Because there is no argument here. There's just the sugar rush that the no contact people get from never coming in second in a I hate Trump the most contest. Really? That's your strategy, to go full high school and tell the guy with all the power he can't sit with you at the lunch table? To borrow a phrase familiar to HBO viewers, you are not serious people. Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
Bill Maher has turned on his own side, and he's not holding back. He's calling out what he sees as deep-rooted delusion, and it's explosive. The host of Real Time argues that the DNC has no path to winning national elections unless it completely abandons the woke agenda. According to Maher, their strategies feel outdated. Their policies fail to connect with everyday Americans, and their politics have become dangerously divisive. His critique? Sharp, relentless, and unapologetically brutal.
But as it is so late in the game, let's just go right to the granddaddy of bargains now. The left will seriously quash all their loony woke shit, and the right will stop the slide into autocracy. That's really the only card left to play. Because the basic problem we have in America is conservatives think the liberals are insane, and they're not completely wrong. Now, I don't think most liberals are insane, but neither do they make it clear they disapprove of the ones who are. And their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall.
Bill Maher begins by exposing what he sees as a glaring weakness within the liberal camp. Not everyone is fully woke. Yet far too few are willing to distance themselves from it. That silence, he argues, is part of the problem. When powerful figures like Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi refuse to challenge extreme voices, it creates the illusion of agreement. And in politics, perception is everything. By staying quiet, they've allowed critics to brand the entire party as woke. According to Maher, this has pushed away moderate voters and weakened the party's national appeal. Instead of drawing clear lines, they've blurred them, and that confusion is fueling their decline.
Couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does.
According to Bill Maher, even respected scientists and influential voices on the left are quietly going along with parts of the woke agenda, even when it contradicts established evidence. Instead of standing firm with data-driven truth, many choose silence or, worse, compliance. Maher believes this isn't agreement. It's fear. Fear of backlash. Fear of cancellation. Fear of losing opportunities. This culture of intimidation has created an environment where speaking the truth feels professionally dangerous. As a result, flawed ideas aren't challenged, they're reinforced. And in Maher's view, that's exactly how misinformation gains ground. Not through truth, but through silence.
A lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex is assigned at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion, not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America, not doing it. Homelessness is a lifestyle. Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. Penises in women's prisons. Welcoming the intifada. We're not doing it.
For Bill Maher, none of this adds up. He argues that many of these ideas are being pushed by the most extreme corners of the woke left in an attempt to reshape society itself. But what frustrates him most isn't just the ideas. It's the silence from senior party leaders. According to Maher, many of them know these claims clash with science and basic common sense, yet they refuse to speak out. Whether it's fear of backlash or political consequences, they choose silence over leadership. And by doing so, they allow the loudest voices to dominate, spreading confusion, deepening division, and weakening the party from within.
Because there is no argument here. There's just the sugar rush that the no-contact people get from never coming in second in a hate Trump the most contest. Really? That's your strategy, to go full high school and tell the guy with all the power he can't sit with you at the lunch table? To borrow a phrase familiar to HBO viewers, you are not serious people.
Another major issue, according to Bill Maher, is a belief that constantly attacking Donald Trump will somehow guarantee victory in 2028. He argues the strategy has already failed. During the 2024 election cycle, critics repeatedly used extreme labels against Trump, hoping to turn voters against him. But instead, many Americans grew skeptical of what felt like exaggerated rhetoric. Rather than offering fresh ideas or meaningful solutions, the focus stayed locked on one man. In Maher's eyes, this didn't just fail, it backfired. It hardened divisions and pushed undecided voters away. Yet despite this, he says the party seems determined to double down instead of changing course.
What exactly is the argument? That by talking to Trump, I'll elevate him? Oh my God, don't tell me he could become president. Well, I guess Ma'am Donnie is going to elevate Trump because he went to the White House today, and look who's getting along now. This guy, MBS, was at the White House this week. Biden thought he could cut him off, but a year later he found out he couldn't. There's no perfect way to deal with Trump, but not engaging is for sure nothing.
Critics like Bill Maher argue that the DNC has become increasingly closed off, shutting down anyone who doesn't fully align with their worldview. Instead of encouraging debate, dissent is dismissed. If you don't agree, you're sidelined, ignored, or pushed out entirely. But according to Maher, that approach doesn't solve anything. It only deepens division. A commonly cited example is Sam Harris, who declined an invitation from Donald Trump to visit the White House. While Harris had his reasons, Maher's perspective suggests that moments of disagreement should open doors, not close them. Real progress comes from engagement, not isolation.
Axios wrote a column in August entitled 11 Ways to Influence Trump, based on many interviews with people who have done that. Number 8, get face-to-face. The trick is getting in the room, away from cameras and social media. Trump will say or write horrible things, but rarely in person, one-on-one, where he comes off kinder, more interested, less erratic. Exactly. And there's a bunch of examples of this. Most recently, the CEO of Intel, who Trump was hating on, but then he met in person, and now he's a great guy. Trump was going to send the National Guard to San Francisco, but somebody talked him out of that. Kim Kardashian, for fuck's sake, convinced him to sign legislation. Don't you get it? Do you really not get it at this point? Everything with him is done through personal relationships. He's a people guy.
As critics like Bill Maher frame it, Donald Trump secured victory by focusing on issues that directly resonated with everyday Americans: jobs, the economy, and national identity. Instead of pushing abstract cultural ideas, he kept his message grounded and relatable. Supporters argue this allowed him to connect with people who felt ignored by traditional politics. His direct, unapologetic style tapped into frustration, pride, and a desire for change. Trump didn't just campaign. He built a narrative that millions felt reflected their own lives.
If anything, we need more people like me having dinner with him. You complain he's surrounded by ass-kissers, but your strategy is to make sure no one but ass-kissers are around him. You are not serious people.
According to voices like Bill Maher, the only way to restore strength within the Democratic Party is through open dialogue, even with those who disagree. Shutting people out may feel powerful, but it rarely changes minds. Instead, It fuels resentment and deepens division. When people are dismissed simply for thinking differently, misunderstanding grows. But real conversation creates opportunity. By engaging critics directly, leaders can challenge false narratives, clarify their stance, and even find common ground. Dialogue isn't weakness, it's strength. If the goal is to rebuild trust and expand influence, then listening matters just as much as speaking.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
Another criticism often raised by Bill Maher is the party's tendency to blame external factors for its failures. Instead of looking inward, setbacks are often blamed on systems, opponents, or circumstances. While challenges do exist, Maher argues that constantly shifting responsibility comes across as evasive. Over time, voters lose patience. People respond to accountability, solutions, and leadership, not endless excuses. By focusing too much on blame, the party risks appearing disconnected from real-world concerns. A stronger approach, he suggests, will be owning mistakes and offering clear, results-driven solutions.
In 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking, we'll call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Critics argue that Kamala Harris struggled to take full ownership after the election loss. Instead of addressing deeper internal issues, she pointed to external factors. Many voters were left unclear about what she truly stood for, especially as she struggled to separate her identity from Joe Biden's platform. At the same time, critics highlight her avoidance of tough interviews and a pattern of giving long, unfocused answers that fail to inspire confidence. Rather than presenting a sharp, compelling vision, her campaign leaned heavily on broad messaging and public goodwill. In a political climate that demands clarity and conviction, critics say this approach weakened her connection with voters.
Kamala writes that on election night, when it was clear she'd lost, an aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
In the end, Bill Maher delivered a direct and cutting critique of the Democratic Party, laying out exactly where he believes they've gone wrong and how they can recover. First, he stresses the need to stop isolating anyone with different opinions. Real progress comes from conversation, not echo chambers. He also warns that endlessly demonizing Donald Trump is ineffective and only energizes his base. Finally, he calls out the party's victim mentality, describing it as exhausting and counterproductive. According to Maher, if Democrats want to regain credibility, they must embrace open dialogue, reject self-pity, and focus on real solutions, not political theatrics. Only then, he says, can they reconnect with American people